Hello everybody and welcome to the Meet the Makers podcast. I'm your host Jack Blanch, and right to the left of me as always is Rye Gerbrands.
Hello everyone.
He's looking at the cameras this time, making a point of it. Also, apologies, we've got a whole carnival in the background of this little intro here, but in this episode we just wanted to quickly give our guest a bit of an introduction. His name's Jacques of Coco Caravan, and what a lovely man.
Indeed, yeah, very interesting podcast. It goes into the ethics, the making, awards, yeah.
Basically, I completely forgot all my questions during this podcast and just was in awe. I think he was just such a lovely man, excellent communicator, speaks 5 different languages. He's from Holland originally and speaks English better than either of us two combined. So.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you're ready to be seduced and learn a thing or two about the chocolate that he sells here in the shop, and maybe some of the chocolate that you have been eating before in the past. But this episode has actually kind of converted us into eating dark chocolate now, and it tastes great. So, yeah.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me on. So I'm Jacques. I run a chocolate factory here in Stroud called Coco Caravan, and we've been here in Stroud for about 5 years or so. And since we've come to Stroud, we've had our chocolate here on the shelf at Made in Stroud, and it's gone really, really well. People like our vegan and alternative sugar options that we offer, and we get a good footfall here for it.
Was it last time I saw you? You were learning Spanish, was it? Or...
Yeah.
How's that coming along?
Slow. I did a year of Spanish because I wanted to go to South America, Central America, and meet the farmers. A little bit the same as we're doing now. I wanted to meet the farmers, see where my cacao is coming from, what sort of impact we are having socially and ethically and environmentally, and feed that back to them, how much that's appreciated here. I did a year of Spanish. I can understand quite a bit because I speak French and German and Dutch as well. So it was nice to add that one to it. But I could understand quite a bit. And then the first trip to origin, as we chocolate makers call that, was to Belize, which is former British Honduras, where everybody speaks English. So,
brilliant. I remember last time we had a conversation. That was when you told me, because I didn't know as well. I knew that you were Dutch, but I didn't know that you also spoke all these different languages. And it's really fascinating learning about the chocolate business because it does kind of take you everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. It's every day is different in a way. Either I'm making a different bar of chocolate, or I'm doing like a web design kind of thing, or I'm talking with suppliers or potential buyers, and then I'm on the market for the day. It's constantly different, and then language helps in there, and my whole previous life is a bit like that, doing many, many different things.
Brilliant. How did you guys meet?
So, when I started just over 2 years ago, Jacques comes in a lot because, as you said, we sell a lot of his chocolate. We met in the shop, and then we've formed quite a solid friendship, I'd say. Yeah. And we get on pretty well, have a laugh and a joke, and we can, we talk about, all sorts. And we get on really well, and Jack's product is lovely. And I talk to the customers about how your chocolate's actually converted me to dark chocolate, because before I just, it was try this dark chocolate, it's really bitter and a bit flat, and it's completely changed my perception of what dairy-free chocolate can be. And people really love to hear how, it's vegan and organic, and it doesn't contain refined cane sugar. You use the coconut blossom nectar. And I talk to the customers about that a lot. And the range has expanded as well. over that time. Yeah, so it's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you like to sort of talk to us about sort of the eureka moment, maybe, of why you got into chocolate making, and what was it that sort of got you into chocolate making?
So, turn the clock back to, I think, the year 2000, as I was starting as an ecologist. I was in the Netherlands, started there with a company and working as an ecologist, setting up department there. I started on my own within an engineer's office, and then after 2 years we were with 9 or 10 people, and we were doing really well, and that department is going strong really, really well. People that are trained and hired are still there, and it's really nice to see. And then after 5 or 6 years in that role, I decided that we should try a new adventure. Let's move to Australia, because my partner Patricia, she's Australian, and we wanted our kids to have a bit of an Australian upbringing as well. So we moved to Australia, and we were there for also about 5 years. And there as well, I worked as an ecologist for a company. And towards like a year before we moved back to the UK, I damaged my knee quite badly.
Right.
And that meant that my ecology role had changed enormously. I couldn't go outside. Maybe my boss could have been a bit more supportive about that, but he didn't. So I was just at home in pain with a busted knee. Luckily he did do that, because like it left me like, okay, I've now done this twice, built up something up really nice for someone else, and I'm in pain and tatters, and I don't really have anything now. So for weeks I was just really stressed and couldn't sleep, insomniac, and then at one point, middle of the night, 3 a.m. or so, I just had a thought, you know what, I'm just going to make chocolate. I'm just going to make little round chocolates with nuts and caramel, and I just passed out. I just fell asleep.
The best ideas always happen then, don't they?
Yeah.
When you're half awake. And,
So it just really came to me, and the next morning I woke up and it's like, whoa, I had a really good night's sleep. That hadn't happened for weeks, and that felt really good. Let's just try this. So I went to the shops, got some kit, really minimal investment, and just tried making some chocolate and come up with the recipes that I was dreaming about. And people loved it, brought it to market, did really well, was actually making more money than I was doing in my ecology job. And then I just continued that. The ecology side picked up a little bit because my knee was reconstructed and I could go out in the field again. And but then after 12 months or so, Patricia said, okay, let's move back to the UK. Kind of like tired of the constant heat, and going to Australia for holidays is really nice. Living there, paying taxing, working is very different. So we came back to the UK, and I said, okay, we'll go to the UK, but I'm not going to start back in ecology again. Now I'm just going to do my own thing, and my own thing is going to be Coco Caravan.
Nice.
And that was in 2013.
I love how something that seems so disastrous at the time can turn into something so beautiful. That was like, before I started here, the job I was working in didn't work out. I thought for a day it was the end of the world. Yeah. And then now I'm far happier doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's interesting. We also have a relative who lives in Brisbane as well, and is probably actually listening to this as well. So
I would imagine so. She's quite excited about it.
But we get the whole. She's married an Australian man there, and we're hearing about the kind of regulations and things like that. Yeah, going to Australia is beautiful. But living and working there coming from another country is
a whole other experience. But it was more what I came to understand is that you can work really hard in any company or any situation, and if you're not self-employed, it still has a bit of an effect. But if you're working in a big company or in a small company or at the council, you work really hard. You do your reviews are really good, and some clown up in another office 50 miles away comes up with a new way how to run things, and that means your job's gone.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've worked there 15 years really well, and you have all your friends there. It's like, well, sorry, you're going. Here's a bit of money. Bye. And yeah, I didn't want to lose that sort of. I wanted to have that control myself.
Yeah.
If I want to stop making chocolate, it's going to be my decision.
Yeah, 100%.
Tell me a little bit about. Well, I already know this, but because we've come and visited your. I've forgotten the proper name for it.
Chocolate Studio.
The studio. There you go. Oh, such a cool name. Very appropriate name for it as well. We came and visited your studio back when you first pitched this project to me,
Yeah.
and we came in and we saw everything that you were doing. It's like a fantastic little studio that you've got in your back garden as well.
I remember when it happened, your daughters were over the moon because you could finally get a cat.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you couldn't have any pets in the house, obviously, because of hygiene.
Yeah.
So having the studio in the garden, they were like, we can finally get a cat,
Yeah.
which is really
Well,
sweet.
not just hygiene for the customers, but also hygiene for the cat. Because I remember when we came and visited the studio,
Yeah.
like as soon as you opened the door, the atmosphere was just thick with this really like chocolatey,
Yeah.
obviously chocolatey kind of aroma.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Cats, like if we're washing things up in the kitchen and there's chocolate somewhere, I've never seen a cat go for that. You got to talk to the dog owners for that. They just go for anything.
My dog, we have to really be careful with chocolate.
Yeah.
He'll try and eat it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I remember as well, so when you were building the
Yeah.
studio, it was December.
Yeah.
And so you had all the Christmas markets.
Yeah.
All of your wholesale suppliers
Yeah.
were their sales were massively up because it's Christmas,
Yeah.
and you were building the chocolate studio. I was like, he's mad. How is he going to do all of this? And you did.
Yeah.
But it was an insane amount of work.
So I thought, okay, we'll start. So in October, so we've got like Halloween and things like that. People are gearing up for it, and then thinking maybe, okay, I can get something for Christmas and things like that. And then if I would have done it later, then I would have like come across with my Easter egg season, which
that's when we visited your studio.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
yeah. So this year we did 75,000 Easter eggs. So that's 150,000 half eggs because we did two halves together. Yeah, that's a big job. So I wanted to make sure that I was in there by early January. Yeah, and we did. So yeah,
Right.
it's exciting.
Tell us a bit about that actually, because obviously we've spoken a lot about your history and how it's just kind of like it's just snowballing at the moment. It's really happening at the moment.
Yeah.
And when we came and saw you, you were telling us about your process of how you were making the Easter eggs, and but for anyone listening, how do you go about making, say, 150,000? How many was it?
150,000.
150,000 half eggs.
Yeah.
And things like that.
So get up early. That's one thing, and just stay focused. I'm just when I started doing them, I just had I think 10 molds. So with the cavities where the chocolate goes in first, and you just get better in it and more efficient at it, and and every day basically for Easter, for the Easter run, that's just 4 months. That's basically all we do, make. So we get a few new like little equipment things that can help us, because before I was just using a piping bag, so that's like a plastic triangle shaped bag, and with the caramel in there, and by hand you kind of like drip the caramel into each cavity before you close it off. So now we've got a new machine for that. You should come and have a look.
Yeah.
So that will help us enormously. But yeah, it's just long days basically. It's all handmade. There's of course machines that can do that, but those machines are like 100,000. And I need a bigger studio for that. I'm not ready for a new crowdfunder yet. So.
Well, there's also a part of you, I suppose, that likes doing it by hand as well, I imagine.
No, of course. It's really nice to see to come to come to the point where you just see like the massive amount that you've produced, and then the chocolate studio is absolutely full with like boxes, and then UPS comes and just takes everything,
Or
and
the
then
Easter
it's like,
Bunny.
or the Easter Bunny. Yeah, UPS brings it to the Easter Bunny, and because the Easter Bunny delivers, they don't collect. So,
That was adorable. I need a minute.
So anyone that's tried your chocolate will know that it's very unique.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the process of making without sort of, I know there's trade secrets about process and order of the way things that go in, so obviously maybe don't talk about that, but just sort of how you actually make it from scratch, and you say, when you get the beans and so on.
Yeah, well, the trade secret is it's really hard work. Yeah. So I'm never too worried when people go like, oh, well, now someone figured out how you temper chocolate. It's like, there's plenty of YouTube videos for that. So, so basically what I've done when I started, I wanted to make a healthier option of chocolate. So working with coconut nectar or coconut sugar. And but I tried many vegan and raw chocolates before, and a lot of them were actually quite disappointing. They were too gritty, they lacked flavour. So I set myself on the path where I use traditional chocolate making techniques, but apply a vegan and ethical ethos to it. So when we start, let me start with the cacao. The bean to bar. I mean, that's, I think, the best one. So first, we don't buy commodity cacao. Commodity cacao is like $2.20 a kilo, something like that, for the cacao beans.
That little?
Yeah, that little. And we know that farmers can't really survive on that. So my cacao beans go from anywhere between 7 up to 12, 13 pounds a kilo. And that's raw product. So when people ask me, it's like, well, why is yours so expensive? It's, because my raw materials are 4 times more expensive than what you find in any supermarket. So I source the beans directly from the farmers, and I look for like ethical projects that are behind there. How do they support the farmers in terms of education, transport, drying, fermentation facilities and things like that, and environmentally. So how are they grown? Of course, organic. Or I will lean to like a farm that's in transition, because that takes a couple of years. Yeah. And looking for farms that they use a type of farming called agroforestry. Okay. Where they work with the forest and the cacao, and they merge the two together. So you have the canopy trees, because cacao likes to have shade, and they use native trees to provide that shade. So you just have a forest with cacao in it, how it would naturally grow. Great. So then when the cacao comes to me, first we get samples, and I try the crack the beans open, and in the inside you've got the nibs. And just smell them, taste them, and see what sort of flavors they're already there. And then from there, I make first 100% chocolate. Right. So just take the nibs out and start grinding them. So we're taking the nibs out by winnowing them. So you've seen the machine with the vacuum cleaner and the grinder and the converted champion juicer on top. So that cracks the beans open and takes the shells off. And the shells we set aside because we don't want to throw anything away. We use that as our cacao tea. Don't know if you've tried the cacao tea. I think
we've got it.
Yeah. And then the nibs, we make sure that there's no more shells in there, and then I refine them again through another champion juicer, and it then becomes like a paste. And that paste goes into the grinder, so they're like big stones. So I've got a few different ones and larger ones. So with the large ones, these round millstones, they're about 4 or 5 kilos each. There's 2 of them in there, and they crush the nibs up. And that will take time. So about after like 2 hours, you've got a nice runny paste. For about 4 or 5 hours, it starts to become really nice and smooth. And after about 6 or 7 hours, it looks like a really dark chocolate drink almost. So for example, with the Arhuaco, where we work with the Arhuaco Indians from Colombia, they're the indigenous people from the Sierra Nevada in Colombia, and they make an amazing bean, and the bean is so amazing that like after that stage of grinding it for a good 9 to 12 hours, then basically the chocolate is finished. We then temper it and pour it. I don't add any butter or any coconut sugar to it. So it's a really smooth 100%. And yeah, we won an International Chocolate Award, Golden Medal last year. This year we picked up a Golden Award for the...
Congratulations.
Thank you. For the International Organic Award. But with some chocolates, like for some cacaos, like the Lechua from Guatemala, that comes from La Calachua, which is a lake, which is a nature reserve in very big. It's a UN sanctioned or not, UN appointed Ramsar site. And the people that live there around the lake, they grow cacao as well. It's really special. It's like the earth there is just really special and creates this really strong fruity cacao. Guatemalan cacao is often very fruity, but with this one, it's so fruity. People ask me if I've put raspberries in there. And so I had to tone that down because, yeah, if I keep that in as 100%, that's potent. So I toned it down to a 70%, and so with a bit of cacao butter and some coconut sugar. So that's how I come to like determine what sort of percentages I put to it. So because percentage, that means how much cacao is in the chocolate. Then after the grinding, when the chocolate is smooth, then the coconut sugar goes in. That needs another 10 hours of grinding or conching, where the chocolate is just aerated and you lose a lot of the acidity, and yeah, a lot of flavor is developed at that point. And then once it's smooth enough, then it goes into a different machine, my tempering machine. And that's where we warm the chocolate up to 42 degrees. So that all the fat crystals that are in cacao, and this is a bit the technical bit.
Mm-hmm. Keep going on. I'm like all ears.
So there's like 7 or 8 different cacao crystals, fat crystals in cacao. And if I just pour it out of the grinder and put it in a tub so I can deal with it later, and I'd come back like 24 hours later, it's still soft. And sometimes it's still liquid in the center. When I temper it, I warm it up to 42 degrees, and then I will cool it down to about 32 degrees. And at that point, I can pour it onto a marble slab. So that's a large, flat stone cold surface. And then I start agitating it. And what that does, it cools down the temperature quickly from about 32 to 28.5. And when it's at that point and I've agitated enough, I put it back into my tempering machine and then stir it through the rest of the chocolate and warm it up to about 31.5. Then the chocolate is nice and liquid, and then I can start working with it. If I then, so what I've done there, I've like tampered with that little one fat crystal that sits in the middle of when they are all setting. So I've tampered with that one so that it kind of locks into each other. I often compare it with a magnet. So you've got a piece of raw iron and you bang it, then you heat it, and then you bang it in a certain way that every metal ion is pointed north. It's the same as with chocolate. You kind of like stirred it and agitated it during that cooling down process so it all locks. Then I pour it into a mold, and set it down for about 3-5 minutes, and it's completely solid. It will pop out. And that's actually for me, it's one of the most rewarding moments as a chocolate maker. So I've done all the selection and the winnowing and the cleaning of the nibs, then the grinding, then the tempering. That's a process of about 3 days. And then they go into the molds, and then they sit into a mold. All the machines are off. And because when chocolate is well tempered, it will go shiny and it will go snappy when you break it. But it also shrinks a little bit. So if it's not tempered, then you won't get it out of the molds clean, and you'll be washing your molds or hammer and chisel. But when it's tempered well and everything is just sitting there, setting there, you just hear little noises like ting, 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 ting. They just pop out of the molds, really. And
How satisfying.
Yeah, and like finally everything's clean because all the loud machinery is off, and that's the machines that you, the little noises that you hear. It's absolutely amazing.
Something our customers, I think, will quite like as well. So many of them will know Kim Francis.
Yeah.
She's quite renowned in the area for doing hand-picked tattoos.
Yes.
And she designed your molds, right?
Yeah, that's true. When first time I came across Kim was when I saw some of her sculpture work, and I really was intrigued with how she works with organic shapes, with organic material, stone, and then with organic shapes in that. So I knew I wanted to work with her, and then I think at a yoga session where we're doing a charity yoga event, and I bumped into her, and we had a good rapport, I think. And then when it came to making this bean to bar, I thought, okay, we're going to put so much energy into doing this right. Let's do this right with the bar as well. So we worked together on it, and she designed then this ripple effect through chocolate, and it was absolutely amazing. Every time when it comes out really nicely, I'm really happy about it.
Wonderful.
There's so many things I want to pick up on and just like expand upon a little bit, but it's very difficult not to kind of be, for lack of a better word, seduced by the whole process and just hearing about it as well. I know that because after we visited you, obviously, yes, seeing it was incredible, but I think you did a very good job of talking about it there, and it's like I was just along for the ride for a little bit and I completely forgot my question. But I think it's the one point that I wanted to but maybe not a point necessarily, but an observation. It's like very interesting how you've kind of stuck to your guns on the kind of chocolate that you want to make.
Yeah.
But you were also willing to kind of hear what people were saying about your chocolate after they had tasted it, and you said like, okay, maybe 100% isn't enough. Maybe we'll bring it down a little bit and down to 70. It's like you have not only stuck to your guns and made something that you are proud of making and also tastes good to you, but you're also willing to hear what people who are buying from you and who are your customers and what they think, and trying to improve the chocolate so it tastes better, basically, and it's just very admirable.
Yeah, thank you. So when we design the recipes, that's a nice lonely process. I often do that on my own, because at some point you start to know how you can work with a certain project, with a certain like raw product. When I already have like the nibs and I can just smell when I open up the bag, I just know, okay, this is going to work in this kind of way. And they're kind of like a lot of steps after that are confirming that. And I know that certain beans will work really well as a high percentage one, and others will as a lower percentage one. Like 70, or even like we've done a few. We've got me on the shelf where we work with oat milk, so the beans are so nice and chocolatey that let's start adding other things to it, like oat milk.
I started drinking oat milk before I stopped eating meat, and it was just it just tastes so much better. Sorry, that was my own little tangent there.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I had to cut that off quite quickly.
Something so that sells very well in the shop for us is the plums.
Yeah.
And people will buy it instead of wine for dinner parties.
Yeah.
And then the other fruits obviously sell very well, so the dates are probably just as popular, and the figs as well. I mean, the plums are a personal favourite, so that's why I put them first. But there's also something quite interesting about the source of the figs.
Yeah. So what I do with the figs, like we all know figs, like those big, dried, flattened, squished, and they're amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I came across these ones when I was in Australia, and they're from Iran. They're Iranian desert figs, and they're just a lot smaller. They're also often referred to as baby figs. And they're a bit harder. So what I do to soften them up a little bit, I just dip them in my caramel. So the Easter eggs I fill with caramel, which I make with cashew nut and coconut sugar. So, but I dip these in caramel so the fig goes a little bit softer, and then it goes into chocolate. And well, the figs are ridiculously expensive to work with, but yeah, it's just so many people love them. So we just continue making them. But yeah, it's just a really great way of showing like a different origin Iran, and getting some product from there. When we first started making them, because they're like sometimes they're a bit hollow, so we have to just really dip them deep in the chocolate. But when we first started making, we were injecting them with the caramel. So I have a little syringe, but yeah, we stopped doing that. That was too much work. So when I first came to Cardiff, when we started, I didn't have the bean to bar range yet. I was then just making with coconut nectar and cacao butter, cacao powder, because that was just also A, it was good chocolate to make, and B, I didn't need like huge machineries yet. So we started in 2013. We had our date and caramel. Caramel I'd already developed in Australia. Date and caramel. We sent that into the Great Taste Award. It arrived there completely crushed, and that was the feedback as well. It's like, it was there completely crushed, and
so it crushed as in
and smashed.
Shipping is such a pain.
Shipping is such a pain. But they said they absolutely loved it, and they're still giving me a star.
Wow.
So that was my first Great Taste Award. After that, many came. The plums have got a Great Taste Award. The Lechua's got a Great Taste Award. And then I started entering, when I started with the bean to bar, I started entering them in the into the chocolate awards as well. Like I said about the Arawaco, but the Lechua has got a medal, and so it's got the Selva Tabasqueño from Mexico, and the Lechua was a really nice one as well. That was in 2018 when we went to Leipzig. Normally in normal times,
Leipzig
in Germany. We go to a chocolate festival called Eurobean there, and there's like I think about 25 different chocolate makers that are real craft makers, so not Cadbury's but really small to big bean to bar chocolate makers. And we put this one into the competition there, so that's a jury that will judge the chocolate, and we picked up first prize there as well.
Amazing.
Which was, that was really, really something.
Well, I'm just remembering what Rai said at the beginning of the podcast. You now exclusively eat dark chocolate, or this has converted you. If there's anyone listening right now who perhaps has been brought up on Cadbury's and Nestle and spent their life eating that sort of chocolate, and they were interested in picking up a bar of your one, what would be a good kind of introductory product of yours?
Well, I'd say start off with the plums. That's because that's a really nice one to have and share. If you want to explore a bit more like the different varieties of cacao, I would say try some of the 80%, the Selva Tabasqueña.
This one here.
Yeah, this one there,
Just show
because
it for-
it's still got some nice sweetness to it, but it's also nice and dark. But there's many more. I've just came with a new Jamaican one, which is a 72%. We're going to start working with some more Ecuadorian. So it's constantly changing. There's constantly new things coming. With people that are like just born up and brought up with like your normal chocolate, and normal chocolate has got a place in society as well. It's like, without them, we wouldn't be doing anything. But there is just a lot of other ingredients in there that don't have to be in good chocolate. A lot of sugar, a lot of milk products. If you look at a lot of chocolate, it barely touches the 30% of cacao. And I always say, actually, the cacao is in there only for color, not for flavor, because it's like milk and sugar that you're eating. So a lot of people kind of expect that when they're eating chocolate, so they're often surprised. Often I see with kids on a market stall, parents say it's like, "Oh, you won't like it. That's bitter chocolate," and it's like, well, just have it a go. Just give it a go. Let them try. I've seen children go for like the 70s, like, oh yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah,
and
my
then
son's
75.
7, and when he was 6, he tried, what's the yellow one? Begins
The
with C.
chuncha.
Loves
Chuncha.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loves it.
Yeah. And like before Corona, we were still sampling. I'd like encourage kids to try, just see what something different is about. And some of these kids, they just go right up to like an 80% to Selva Tabasqueña, no problem. The 100%, yeah, sometimes still a bit challenging, but for a lot of people, it's like, oh wow, that's just intense, but it's amazing.
Brilliant. So what's next then for you? I mean, obviously you've, like we said earlier, the snowball has just continued to get bigger as it's rolling up the hill for you.
Yeah.
And so what is the next step?
So the next step is we're changing our recipe for our Easter eggs a little bit. We're starting, before I was working with coconut nectar, we're going to start working with coconut sugar and start grinding that in. I've got larger grinders now, so that's one thing that we're going to do. It's going to be a little bit darker, and just I think the chocolate will be nicer. They both are very nice, but I think for the Easter eggs, you see they're so thin. Having that extra bit of darkness to it will be an improvement. So that's coming this Easter. Then we start playing with some new beans. So I mentioned the Ecuadorian ones are coming in. I'm hopeful that we're going to do more things with Belize. So because they've got such amazing cacao beans and amazing stories behind them. So really want to get that more on the map. Also, there's a bit of colonial history there. So I think we kind of owe it to Belize to do really good business with them, so that the people there can continue to build on their community. So I really would like to do more with Belize. So that's going to be an exciting project.
Very exciting. Yeah.
What else we're going to make? So we're also going to play with maybe some truffles. So we're going to get some new molds to make our own truffles. So they're like little chocolate shells, which we can then fill with some of our own, like also vegan, also sugar-free recipes, and then put them in a box or.
That's very.
Please. If you need a guinea pig, please. But before, that's also an interesting question.
Yeah.
How are you not sick of chocolate yet?
If you make something good, you won't get sick of it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I've spoken to people that have worked in chocolate factories, and they say, okay, you can eat as much as you like, and you get a really good discount at the factory shop. And for 3 days they eat a lot, and then they will not touch the stuff anymore 40 years later, it's like, no, still can't handle it. And it's because it's so high in sugar, high in milk, and all of that. It's just sickening. With chocolate, if you get good chocolate, then yeah, you'll get a nice chocolate buzz from it, and you don't get sick from it.
Brilliant.
So one last thing that always excites me is when makers collaborate together.
Yeah.
So you've done a collaboration with Ritual Coffee.
Yeah.
Courtney and Callum.
Yeah. They were awesome, and just really passionate about what they do, and kind of the same kind of ethos when it comes to where they get their coffee beans from. And that works really, really nice to combine that. So I used their Brazilian coffee. So they roast them, and then I just put them through the grinder with my chocolate, and yeah, it's such a rich experience. So I added a little bit of Scottish oat milk just to give it a bit of creaminess to it, and yeah, it came out really, really nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So you touched very briefly upon the way Cadbury's make their chocolate in terms of less cacao, more milk, more sugar, and obviously there's some sort of kind of ethical questions that come about there. It's like, where is this really coming from, and why is cacao? Well, yeah, tell us a bit more about the ethics of putting more cacao in your chocolate and where it comes from and all that.
So traditionally, cacao comes from Central and South America. That's where it's been for millennia. And that's also where it's been farmed for millennia. So when early Europeans came to the continent and saw the potential of cacao, they started bringing it to closer to Europe, so in Africa. So they've got a really strong colonial history with it, which is not all great, but also continuing on today because the commodity prices are so low. And it's almost impossible to farm and make a living with those kind of rates. So what happens is there's a lot of illegal farming, like they just go into a nature reserve, cut it down and put cacao trees there. Also the workers, there's some really horrendous things. There's about like over 1.5 million child slaves in the Ivory Coast and in Ghana. And yeah, I'm just not okay with that for just a bit of chocolate here. That's just ridiculous. I mean, there's a lot of great projects there as well, where they're working with small communities and things like that. But the majority of it, for that sort of pricing, and we can see that price, this is what's happening. So to do it ethically, we work a lot more direct with the farmers. So with Penny Cacao in Belize, where it's much more working with local community, where it's working with the Arhuaco community or with the Guatemalan communities. They get a really fair price, which is sometimes double from what the normal farm gate price would be. The great thing is, like, if you want the cheapest, you will get the cheapest. So you'll get rocks and feathers and stones and sticks and everything else in a bag of cacao. So we would need to hand sort it anyway. Often the fermentation process, because they ferment it at the farm, that's really where a lot of quality of the cacao has been put in. So if you have a farmer that takes real pride and care and time for that process, and you pay him really well for that, you get a lot better beans. Whereas in Africa, often they're not even fermented. They're just out of the pulp, straight dried, and in a bag and onto the massive heap, and to Europe. So we're hoping that people are trying this and tasting, wow, this is very different from what I normally have. And it's because there's so much time, care, and yes, money has gone into it, and we make I think superior quality chocolate that way. So
it's not like you've just decided that I'm going to charge a little bit more for this because I feel like it's
no.
It's there's actually a method to it, and there's genuine value in the product.
Yeah.
And ethical reasoning.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's also, of course, scale. Like I buy my cacao for, let's say, eight pounds or my cacao beans for £8 a kilo. So I only buy like a few bags instead of a container load. So it will cost me more expensive to ship it. Also, we make small batches of them, so I can put real care in them. So they're batches of like 100 bars, 150 bars at a time. So also, I get smaller quantities in packaging. So larger factories will get theirs printed in China, maybe for half a penny a piece. We get them printed here locally, and then they're a lot more than that. I can tell you that. So it's also about scale. That's also why it's all a bit more expensive, of course.
Oh, no, I think.
But people that try it and come back to it, they are absolutely fine with that.
Well, they come back to it.
Yeah, if you want to have a drink, and you can go to the 1.5 litre, £2 cider from your local shop.
Oh.
No,
Exactly.
I'm not a fan.
Or you can say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to the local wine shop, or I'll go here and I'll grab a 16 pounds, 12, 16 or 20 pounds. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but then I really get to enjoy it.
Yeah, you have a whole better experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Jacques, I could talk to you all day, and I really want to come and visit your studio when things settle down again.
Yeah.
Obviously, with everything going on, I don't want to date this episode, but if anyone wants to get in touch with you, or where's the best place to find you, basically?
So, best place to find me is online, if you're far away. So cococaravan.co.uk or .com, they both work. We've got shops that sell our chocolate all around the UK, but now because we're working with the larger distributors, Suma and Infinity Whole Foods, it goes far and wide. I see people posting, it's like, hey, I've been on holiday, well, that was pre-corona, in Malta, and here's your chocolate.
No way.
I've come on the airport in Reykjavik, and there's your chocolate. How is this possible? It's like, I don't know. You have to talk to Suma for that. Or Infinity. So it goes far and wide. And I post quite a bit of our chocolate, or also for cooking purposes. So we do have that.
Wow, I haven't even thought about that. Brave new world.
Yeah, and of course here in the shop in Main and Stroud, because
and our web shop as well.
Yeah, you've got it in your web shop.
Stroud.co.uk.
Yeah,
and we sell a lot of it in the shop itself on Kendrick Street.
Yeah.
Man, thank you again so much for coming down, Jacques. And like I said, I was completely taken away by. I just completely forgot all my questions and just was just listening. You're an excellent communicator and excellent chocolate maker as well.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jack, for having me.